Wolfwalkers. Once again, Cartoon Saloon returned with another animated feature that is set in the world of Irish mythology with its unique 2D animation. While the studio may be rather young, they so far have an amazing track record with their movies, with each film having an Oscar nomination to prove it. For this edition though, it is said to be the final film in what they call the Irish Folklore Trilogy, which will finish what their first films established in terms of their setting and theming with The Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea. And if this one is anything like those two, then we're probably in for something really special, especially when director Tom Moore is back to conclude his set of unforgettable legends. Seriously, I reviewed these two films in the past, and I still think that they are some of the best 2D animated features in recent years. Also, even if this one doesn't count in the trilogy, I'd even throw in The Breadwinner in that statement. It can be a heavy film, but it's still greatly powerful both in its storytelling and creative use of animation. So now that we'll be entering the woods and running with the wolves, will Cartoon Saloon complete its trilogy of amazing animated films based on Celtic mythology? Or is it better off to tell Maeve to take her wolves and get out? Let's find out. The story. Considering that this is part of Cartoon Saloon's unofficial Celtic mythology trilogy, Wolfwalkers does share some strong similarities with both Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea, and I don't mean with just the use of folklore. They each have a child protagonist that would discover the mystical land that's close to their home, the other leading little girl that is also a mythical creature, a strict father figure that is only tough because they want to protect their kid, a flat medieval artwork-like animation style, a prominent theme of man versus nature, a character-driven coming-of-age style story, and a strong use of world building. As you could tell, they all got this formula going on, and yet, while they are a lot in common, they each are distinctively different from one another. In the case of Wolfwalkers, what makes the story work on its own and how it is so engaging from beginning to end is the way it makes it a character-driven story. That this is all about Robin and Maeve, and how they connect by wanting to live a free life outside of the wrath of the Lord Protector. Rather it be letting Robin be a hunter like her father instead of a scullery maid, or have Maeve, her mom, and their pack of wolves live in peace without their home be in danger by human colonization. By putting more focus onto the girls and developing them throughout the feature, it gets easy to connect with this emotionally, as their circumstances not only get in the way of what they want in life, but also their bond gets tested as Lord Protector gets stricter to demand order upon his land, resulting in many moments that can be heartbreaking, yet at the same time, they also make the moments where they are together and enjoying each other's company more valuable and feel satisfying to balance out the tone.
Stay here in the forest. It's great. Loads of running, playing, eating, messing, climbing. Free.
However, much like their friendship, there are times when things can't work out like the way they plan. The one criticism with the story is that there are moments where it can get predictable, especially towards the end to build up the climax and conclude the picture. I won't spoil anything, but I'll just say for the kind of family film about friendship that this is and the plot elements that it presents throughout the feature, the ending goes exactly like how you'd think it goes. That, and some may debate regarding its message of environmentalism. Specifically, how it prominently presents the theme of anti-colonialism and deforestation, which Tom Moore is personally passionate about, even worked on a 2-minute short about it for Greenpeace.
There's a monster in my forest, and I don't know what to do. It turned my home to ash to instead grow something new.
Of course, I'm not saying that the message itself is bad, but it's the way that it handles it that can feel heavy-handed and get so in your face that some viewers may feel like it takes away from investing themselves in the story. Then again, even with its problems, the execution does help a lot to forgive the movie for some of its shortcomings, like the message makes sense for what it means to the characters, and how the ending can get so intense and action-packed. But even with all of its mythology, its environmental message, and repeated themes from previous Cartoon Saloon films, what makes the story so great is that, at its core, It's about the bond of two people fighting against a system that's keeping them away from being friends. The animation. I'll just say right now that this animation is absolutely beautiful. The designs are unique and take advantage of using simple shapes to define their characters. The backgrounds are immersive with the woodblock printing-like town and the sketchy and more rounded forest. The effects add that extra layer to emphasize its style, and the character animation is smooth and gives them full of life. Like, I'm gonna say right now that I love everything about the animation here. There really is so much to talk about regarding the movie's visuals. However, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna step aside for this part. Instead, I'm bringing in a real animator who is quite eager to discuss about the movie's animation, and let him share his thoughts on Wolfwalkers' visual achievements. So with that said, please welcome YoshTea.
Hey Matt, thank you so much for having me on the show. So my name is YoshTea and I am an animator. And as an animator, I would love to give my view on Wolfwalkers. What makes Wolfwalkers so special is not only the graphic flat art style, the simple yet convincing animation, or the watercolor backgrounds, but their creative use of every visual facet of filmmaking to their best ability. Moore and his team of artists decided to have two different visual languages having a conversation, those of the town and the forest. The film is about division between people and nature, between rectilinear buildings of Kilkenny and the sensually curving vegetation of the forest, wildness and order. The town of Kilkenny and its people are made out of boxes and squares. We all know what calling someone a square means. Squares are easy to order and to divide. They are a symbol of stability and conservatism and are made of sharp, stiff and uptight lines. The lines used in the design of the town and its people are thick, and the colors spill over the edges. It's inspired by woodblock printing, which was a printing technique used in medieval times. While all the environments and characters in the forest use loose brushstrokes and scratchy pencil lines. The lines are wild, organic, soft and rounded, and even chaotic to visualize the exuberance and expressiveness of the forest. The animation in the forest is kept rough, making the wolves feel like sketches. If you have ever seen a pencil test compared to final animation, you know how rough animation feels more alive, and that it always loses a bit of its soul going from department to department. In Wolfwalkers, they bypass this issue by using the rough animation. The looseness of the line work is adjusted to the emotion of the scene, with lines getting more aggressive and wild as the emotions get high. It uses the language of pencil line to tell a story, similar to Isao Takahata's The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which co-director Ross Stewart noted as an important inspiration. These wild lines are best seen in the wolf vision sequences. These are point-of-view shots that put the viewer inside the mind of Robin as a wolf.
And you can hear every little thing that moves. And your paws can hear through the earth.
The wolf vision sequences were animated by hand on paper and took over 6,000 individual drawings. The artists struggled to make the sequences feel dimensional and feared that going full 3D would look too synthetic. So ultimately, they chose to combine a 3D environment, which they modeled with a virtual reality headset, and then to rotoscope the 3D animation frame by frame on paper using graphite. The result is a beautifully animated sequence that combines the depth of 3D and the organic feel of graphite. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that Robin starts out with the clean town outline, but after being turned into a wolfwalker, she is drawn using the sketchy forest line to show her transformation. But this also seems to happen to Merlin? So is Merlin a wolfwalker as well, or do they turn into Patrolicus? What I love about this film is the creative use of aspect ratio and split screen, which divides the screen in comic book-like panels. My favorite has to be the sequence where we see Bill, Robin and Maeve all in one shot. Robin is placed figuratively and literally in the middle between her father and her best friend. Or the shot where we see Robin working so hard, we see her doing 4 jobs at the same time. An odd thing you'll notice when watching Wolfwalkers is the use of wipe transitions. As an artiste, I could defend it by comparing it to the unstoppable passage of time. But in honesty, it was the only thing in the film that felt awkward to me. These transitions should remain in your holiday slideshow. If there is anything an animator could learn from this film, it would be that you can use every element in the film to tell a story. That it is allowed to combine 2D, 3D, and rotoscoping to strengthen your film, and that you should never use wipe transitions.
The characters. As Cartoon Saloon specializes in developing character-driven stories, then it's no surprise that they can also deliver some very memorable characters, strong enough to carry the entire feature by themselves and contain a great emotional core that is key in connecting with the audience. It also helps a lot when they are supplied with great voice acting that gives their personalities an extra dimension that makes them feel believable and easier to connect with. Despite presenting a whole lot of big buff men and ferocious wolves, the strongest characters are actually a couple of little girls that play the leads. Robin, along with her faithful pet falcon Merlin, is a reckless adventurer who is unable to fit in her new environment in the Irish town of Kilkenny. Or at least, she wants to be an adventurer like her father instead of following the town's rules. She could still be highly naive, unaware of the dangers of her dad's work, but that could also come with benefits where she's more open-minded to her later encounters, including learning the life of Wolfwalkers and their attacks on the villagers are only meant to protect their home. Speaking of the Wolfwalkers, the main one that buddies up with Robin is Maeve, a wild and outgoing little girl that can be stubborn and headstrong, but she's all about the way of the wolves, living life as a free spirit with no need to follow the same rules or religions that regular humans do. But as carefree as she can be, she is also stuck in a tough situation where she is waiting for her mom to wake up and be human again. But she's been out much longer than usual, and the reason why is what will test the friendship between the two.
And she promised to help. And where are you? You promised you'd come back. But it's been so long now.
And as I said before, the core of the movie's story and heart is the bond between these two characters that are vastly different in personality, yet able to get along so well, which is put to the test by the town's colonialism that makes it seem next to impossible to maintain their friendship. Alongside the girls include Bill Goodfellow, Robin's father, who can seem strict with her, but is only because he is always in fear. It's enough that he already lost his wife, so it would be too much if he also lost his daughter. That is why he always wants to stick with the safest option, even if it means disregarding Robin's wishes and obeying to his superiors. There is also Sean, a comic relief type character who is the only person in town that believes in Wolfwalkers after his encounter with them at the start of the feature. And then there's the Lord Protector, who is actually the real 17th century English general Oliver Cromwell. In the movie, he is depicted as the antagonist similar to Judge Frollo from Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, an authoritarian ruler that pursues order from his people. And the best way of doing so is by taking down all the wolves in the forest to assert his dominance. What makes him fascinating as a villain is how he is so attached to his religion. He's not the typical bad guy who only thinks of his own selfish needs. He views himself as a servant of God, and because his actions are meant to help empower his lord, he believes that he is doing what is best for his people, and to prove that God's will is mightier than any beast in the forest.
Lord, what must I do? I left to quell rebellion and returned to more. This wild land must be civilized. That is your will.
With the combining forces of great acting and great writing, part of the movie's amazing craftsmanship is how it left its storytelling in the hands of such memorable characters. Of course, in order to complete the trilogy of Cartoon Saloon's Celtic mythology, the movie has to be, and thankfully is, absolutely brilliant. Wolfwalkers is a completely captivating animated feature that is capable to amaze and have its viewers be immediately invested from beginning to end. Featuring a highly engaging story that brings people to an immersive post-medieval world with plenty of wonder and action, beautiful animation that delivers a unique art style that can make it feel like a living work of art, and the memorable characters that are filled with well-written personalities and carry the emotions of the film to make it both heartfelt and heartbreaking. Just like with The Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea, this is absolutely worth a watch. The craftsmanship in both the animation and the writing is highly admirable and can hardly be found in any of the recent mainstream animated films. So watching this is kind of like finding a rare gem. For me, it's honestly one of the best animated films in recent years, and it's not every day that filmmakers make their art quite like this. So that is why I'm happily giving this the Animat seal of approval. It may not be an official trilogy, but it still counts as one of the best animated trilogies.
Why do you want to be a human? Being a wolf is way better. I'll show you.